So thank you all for coming to the Lunch and Learn today. We are, I guess, Refraction's newest nonprofit, so we were very excited to get the invitation to share sort of who we are and what we do, and some ways we hope that being part of this shared workspace community can help us collaborate with our mission. So we are Global Camps Africa. Sorry. And today I'm just going to give a brief introduction and some history about what we do. I'll share about our intentional camp model that we use, some stories from our campers. I'll talk about our new programs and some of our ideas for potential collaboration. So we were founded 13 and a half years ago by our now president, Phil Lilienthal. Some of you have probably seen him around the office. He's in Maine this week and couldn't join us. He owned and operated a camp for 30 years in Maine, and then retired from his law practice here in Reston, sold the camp to his son, and decided to use the power of camp to impact positive change with the HIV crisis in South Africa. So we were founded with the mission of empowering children for an AIDS-free tomorrow.
Okay, so South Africa actually has the largest epidemic for HIV in the world, with currently 6.3 million people living with HIV and over 200,000 deaths per year due to AIDS. And as of 2015, there were almost 260,000 children aged 0 to 14 living with HIV, and over 2.4 million orphan children aged 0 to 17 due to the AIDS virus. With that being said, there's a lot that needs to be done to fight this crisis, and we would like to share a video of one of our campers and the impact camp has had on their life.
First name is Mrs. Steve, and the last name is Laura.
Tell me what have you liked most about coming here?
The most thing I love is that I'm going to meet people like me and people who loves me, who want to take care of me and happiness of us. Yeah.
And what do you tell me what you love about the Woodchappies?
They're so nice and they don't choose who to love, they just love us all and they respect us a lot. So that's why I love the Woodchappies. They even take care of us as if they are brothers and sisters. Yeah.
Now, you're very vocal in life skills class. What have you learned in life skills?
I learned that we must not stigmatize people with HIV, and we must always think, if we're talking about HIV, must think for other people, because you don't know who's HIV, who's not. So if you're talking about HIV, think that the person I'm sitting next, how she or he will feel.
You were saying something about being HIV positive?
Yeah, I am HIV positive. And I do understand of why young kids like this being HIV. Some it's because of their mother, some it's because of they run around and do wrong things. But we must not always blame people that are HIV positive, because it's not that we call that disease. It came to us and just destroy our life. But I always make sure, and I want to tell all the people that are HIV, never think that you are alone. You are with someone. If you don't have a mother, you still have a neighbor maybe, and then that's okay to let your feelings when there's something hurting you. And if you're HIV, always think upfront. Don't care what people say about you. Don't care what they think that it's always sick, things like that. Everything I'm doing it for me, for my future, for who I am, but for my sickness.
Last question. You said you were an orphan. Do you feel like an orphan when you're at camps as well?
And somehow I do, and somehow I don't. Because you see that everybody loves me, and everybody treats me the same. Some people didn't know that I'm HIV positive because I don't keep that in mind. What I told myself is that we are all the same. Even if they are sick, we are all the same. There's no one else different to God. Even if you have AIDS, you're still a person of God. God that creates you because He created you. He created you to lead the world so that you can show others what you've got.
What's your favorite activity at camp?
My favorite activity is swimming. The thing is that I can't do it right, but I love swimming. I really love swimming, and life skills also. I love life skills because it's teaching me about things that I didn't know with HIV. You know, some people tell themselves that HIV will never get kids, but today I know that from HIV I can still have a kid if I want.
What does your name mean? Lucy, does that mean something?
Yeah,
What does it mean?
blessing.
Blessed.
Yeah, that's when I'm a blessing to everyone.
Oh my gosh, he died.
So Lucy was a camper at our 2009 camp. And, hang on just a second, sorry. She was a camper at our 2009 camp, and she passed away in 2010. But we think she's a great example of the power of our camp model. So how many of you have been to summer camp before? A few of you. What are some activities that you did at camp? Does anybody want to share? I know I caught everyone with a mouthful.
Canoeing, swimming.
Canoeing and swimming. So we have swimming. There's some of our swimmers here. Oh, sorry. Want to watch another GCA video? Swimming. What are some others? Any other activities? Arts and crafts. We definitely have that one.
Camp songs.
Yes. We love camp songs. We even have traditional Zulu dances that happen at camp. Anybody else? Sports. We do sports and adventure. All right. So here are the activities that we focus on at our 8-day residential camp. And so each of these has what we call level 1 and level 2 skills. And level 1 are, the practical things that you learn while you're participating. And then level 2 are the desired takeaways that you carry with you through life. So not only are you working on swimming, but then you're gaining courage and you're learning to try new things and push through them. And so here are some examples of our level 2 skills. So somebody shared arts and crafts. And so our participants, they find materials in nature and they learn how to draw and they practice with mixing colors and painting, and they write thank you notes to our donors who have enabled them to come to camp. But so the level 2 skills that we hope that they gain from that is self-expression, confidence, the ability to find inspiration in nature, which is easy to do at our camp location in South Africa because it's just beautiful all around the camp. Creativity, emotional control, and release, which you'll see a couple times as I talk about our different sessions at camp, and the ability to practice gratitude. Through theater, that's where some of our singing and dancing comes in through the program as well. The campers focus on cultural pride, self-expression, working together, emotional management, observational skills, and their imaginations. We have a nutrition session, and the kids there not only learn about a well-balanced diet, but they practice properly washing fruits and vegetables, and then making a fruit salad and a sandwich that has vegetables and meat on it. And they even learn how to grow their own fruits and vegetables at home, which is a great takeaway when they return to their communities. So they learn about a balanced diet and their own personal hygiene with washing their hands before they eat and that sort of thing. I'm sure everyone washed their hands before lunch today. And then they talk about food security and the environment, which is where the home gardening comes in. Sports and adventure. I love this photo because it gets me anxious just looking at it, imagining being blindfolded and having to go through these hula hoops. But so that's where trust and teamwork come in. Definitely communication when you're blindfolded. And a big one here is understanding the importance of rules and boundaries in life. And I think a lot of times you think about camp and you think about fun and just going and exploring, but it's also very important to have that foundation that there are set boundaries in given situations. We also have yoga at camp. Has anybody here done yoga? Right? Yeah, and so we have yoga instructors at camp, and one of our yoga Vocellis hopes to open the first yoga studio in her community, which would be great. I had the pleasure of meeting her last summer, and you can tell she is just very mindful in everything that she does. And so yoga not only helps with their posture and their breathing, but then with gratitude, focus on the present, awareness of the mind-body connection, and again, emotional regulation. With swimming, we work on self-esteem and courage and perseverance, and again, the willingness to try something new. There's so much fear associated with water, and so swimming is a really great session at camp when the kids come and think that they really can't do what you're asking them to do, and then see themselves do it. I was a swim instructor when I was younger, and that was always my favorite part of teaching, was that look. There's this distinct look on a kid's face when they get it, when they either go under for the first time and then come back up, or when they jump in and actually swim to you. It's like an instant gratification that they've accomplished something. We also have 2 life skills sessions at camp. One of them focuses predominantly on sexual and reproductive health. And so we do talk about HIV and AIDS, as Lucy shared. She learned a lot more about that. You know, we struggle with stigma here in the States surrounding HIV, and it's even more so there. There are people who think that it's a curse on your family, or that you've done something wrong. We have surveys, and we've had campers say that they don't think you can be friends with someone who has HIV and that sort of thing, and you certainly couldn't hug someone who has it. And so we try really hard to address that stigma and sort of create these community leaders who will be champions for just caring for and loving one another. And so we do talk about various methods of safe sex, and also what consent actually means, and then the confidence to protect themselves from any unwanted sexual encounters. And we share resources in the case of teen pregnancy, including birth control, to try to prevent. The other life skills session has more gender role dynamics with it. We talk about abuse, how to acknowledge it, and how to protect yourself, how to tell someone that it's happening. And then we have a referral program at camp, so if you do report to your counselor or someone else that something's happening, we can hopefully help you go through the process through social work to address and resolve those issues. We talk about self-worth and what a healthy relationship is, and we try to help campers believe in themselves enough to seek healthy relationships and encourage those in their lives. And then an understanding of gender equity, which is a new program that we're rolling out as well. So after camp, so campers come to this 8-day residential camp, and you can only come once. And then after camp, you can come to what we call youth clubs, and those take place every other Saturday in your community. We have about 6 different communities where we do those. And it's really just a follow-on program of what you learned at camp. And so the same topics will come up. It's the same intentional curriculum with fun activities. There will be sports and adventure some days. There will be theater other days. They have life skills sessions as well. And there will be games or activities to help kids really reinforce what they've learned at camp. And they'll, have a debriefing session at the end to make sure people are on the same page about the lessons that were learned. And we originally started with a 12 to 19-year-old program, and then 2 years ago, last year, we started an under 11 program. And we had a grant from LinkedIn to start the program and develop this awesome curriculum. And we hadn't really run our program with that age group before. But what we were seeing was that we were missing some of our 12 to 19-year-olds because they were responsible for their younger siblings on Saturdays. And then some of the moms in the community came to us and said, I love what you're doing, but you're getting them too late. I want you to hit them younger. And so now we have these 2 separate programs, and we've seen great results from our under 11 program. And these 2 pictures I thought were good examples of sort of the range of activities at youth clubs. We don't just focus on the campers and their individual health and experience. We want to empower them to have positive impacts on their communities. And so the photo on the left there is our Meadowlands Youth Club, and they're doing a community service cleanup project. where they went out in their neighborhood and they picked up a lot of trash, and then they did weeding and cleared this path so that the community members would have a safer way to get around. And then these campers, and I actually don't remember which youth club this is, but they're playing chess, and then afterward they had a big conversation about how, you know, just like you sort of think about your move and then your next move and the next move, you have to think about life in that way and be very thoughtful in everything you do. And so some stories from camp. This is Naniki, and she did not have a relationship with her father, and then her mother passed away from HIV, and she was the youngest of 3. And when her mom died, she shared in her story with us that she wasn't allowed to go to the hospital and see her mom. And then afterward, a social worker came to the house and took her, but her 2 sisters went to live with her aunt. And so when she came to us at camp, she felt alone. And in her story, she shared that it was hard for her to hear people in her cabin talk about their families because she felt like she didn't really have one anymore. You know, she said, well, I have the madam of my orphanage, but it's not really the same. And so she shared that through camp she learned, you know, you don't discriminate against people with HIV, you love them. And then, you know, her takeaway is that she can go home and teach others to do the same and just try to understand one another. Another camper who shared a story is Cecil. And Cecil didn't have a relationship with his father and had 2 younger siblings. And they struggled to have money to put food on the table. And his mom had a big gambling addiction, and on the weekends would be gambling. And so he was responsible for his siblings, and shared in his story that he ended up involved in a lot of illegal activity because he felt desperate to take care of his family and felt like it was the only thing he could do. And so through camp, he says, I think my life will be different. I've learned to be a better person and to encourage other people, and most importantly, to believe in himself. And then he says, I've learned to be there for people who need a helping hand. The third story I wanted to share is from Zandy. And Zandy was a camper and then became a Vocelli. And so we have this Vocelli and training program where after you come through camp, once you reach a certain age, you can enroll in this Vocelli and training program, and you can give back to the camp. You can come, you get a stipend for being a Vocelli, and you get to be a cabin leader or work. She's a life skills Vocelli now. But so when she came to camp, she was at a very angry place in her life, and she felt alone. She said, you know, I felt that nobody cared what was going on. And one of her biggest takeaways from camp was during a life skills session where they were talking about the journey of life. And she said she vividly remembered her Vocelli, who's now our camp director, this wonderful person named Cabello, KB. She said she vividly remembers him saying to her, no matter how hard life gets, if your brother passes away or if your mom doesn't care for you the way that you want her to, which is what was happening with Sandy, you can still achieve great things in life. And so she's since gone on to get a teaching degree, and she's a teacher and a Vocelli with us, which is wonderful. We have 2 new programs that we started this year. One is our financial literacy and entrepreneurship program. We are so excited about it. We have on the 2 outer photos are our Vocellis who are being trained to specifically implement this program. They are getting their own financial literacy training here so that they can take the information to our youth clubs. On the right here, they've got a grocery budget going on, and so they were broken into groups, and they were given sort of the weekly ads for the grocery stores, and they were given how much money they could spend, and they had to look at these ads and make a plan for what food they would buy when they went to the store, and recognize what they wouldn't be able to bring home so that they could start to learn to live within a budget. And then on the left-hand side, you've got the different circles or the different pots of money that you'll end up having to use. And so where do you invest more of your money? Where are you more cautious with your money? So there were great group activities. And then those Vocellis will be implementing the program at youth clubs with the first introduction at camp, we're doing what's called a market day, and that's what you see in the middle here. These are campers very excited with their market day money. That's the construction paper, is their Monopoly money. And so market day was this huge lesson, not only in budgeting, but in safe investments and how do you take risks with your money and sort of a risk versus reward, return on investment strategy. So the last day of camp, they got this money and they had to use it to buy snacks for this movie night that they were having. And then there was also a raffle that they could enter, and the raffle was for their cabin to win this pizza party by the pool. And so as a group, they really had to decide, is it worth it to buy a bunch of raffle tickets and win this awesome pizza party together? Or what if we save our money and we can have snacks at the theater production tonight? And so there was this big debate, and we get these stories back from camp that the campers who did not win the raffle were so crushed, you know, and they're like, we put all of our, you know, tickets into that. So it was a great lesson, and, you know, sometimes you do lose on an investment even if it seems exciting in the beginning. So we're very excited for this program. We just got additional funding for the pilot phase, so we are stoked for that. I mean, it's a win-win for the Vocellis and the campers because, I mean, everyone I feel like can use budgeting lessons. I would love to go through this program and have someone help me decide which pots of my money need more attention. So we're excited to see how this takes off with our youth clubs. And then the entrepreneurship piece is one that I believe the campers will be opting into. And then they will get sort of tailored guidance on how to make a business plan and then going from there. So we really want our campers to have hope for their futures, and this is a big piece of ensuring that they do have opportunities in the future. The second program is our Young Women's Empowerment Program. And this word here is a Zulu word, imbokodo, and it means, I may have mispronounced that, but it's like a hard stone is what that means. But it's South Africa's term for their women's empowerment movement right now. And it's a symbol of the strength and resiliency of South African women. So we've started this program. It'll be Vocelli led. Again, we're empowering our Vocellis to run this program. And here in the middle is the beginning of the training. Training just started a month ago. And so here they're talking about objectification. And so we're not telling them what it is so that they can go address it. This was a training session where they sat together and talked about what it was and examples of how they'd seen it in their communities and sort of how our campers might see it and perceive it and how to best affect positive change in that. So finally, we just want to talk about some collaboration ideas. One of the easiest, I think, is to volunteer locally since we're already here. This is a photo from our most recent event in May. Sydney, our wonderful intern, was one of our volunteers, and this is check-in at our event at the museum. But so there are lots of opportunities for volunteering locally. We have a booth at the Lake Ann Farmers Market. I don't know if anybody lives in Reston or if we all commute in, but the Lake Ann Farmers Market is huge. Has anyone been to that? You should all go. It's on Saturdays and amazing. It's huge. Well, you've been to it before, right? It's huge, and there's this huge produce area. They've got, honey, local meats, everything. But then there's this ginormous craft area too. And so they let us have a table there so that we can sell some South African products, but then also share what we do. So Sydney has been in charge of that booth this summer, and she would love to have other volunteers to keep her company. And then when we have events, we always need help with setup and check-in and check-out. And so there are lots of ways to volunteer locally if anyone's interested. You can also volunteer internationally. You can go to South Africa and be one of our amazing Vocellis. That is always an option, and we would love to share more information about that. Can we all take a moment to look at that smile? I love it. Another way that you can help is through crowd-funded campaigns. I did one of these for my most recent birthday, and it's really just a fun way to share what we're doing and to sort of get your own network involved in something that you care about. And so I can definitely share more info on that. We'd also love if somebody has innovative ideas on how to best promote a crowd-funded campaign or different ways to direct them or marketing them, that sort of thing. Which leads me to consulting, which is the final sort of collaboration piece that we're hoping to gain here. This is a picture of KB, who I mentioned before, with Marina Applebaum, and she wrote one of the books that we use in our life skills. She wrote something called Connect Ed, and it's an HIV educational tool. And so her foundation donated books to us, and then she lives in Johannesburg, South Africa, so she came to our camp session this past March, is very enthusiastic about what we're doing and wants to collaborate, and she's going to help us find board members in South Africa, and then wanted to help us come up with potential fundraising events there so that we can generate more funds in South Africa. And so that's sort of just an example of right place, right time collaboration that happens with somebody, you know, knows more about what we do and then uses their own skills to help with that. And I know, Suresh, you've talked before about different ways to help, because a lot of what our refraction neighbors do is so, to me, outside of my understanding, if that makes sense. I don't want to make myself sound dense, but a lot of like the coding and programming that I hear going on, I sort of listen sometimes thinking, that's not English. And so if anybody has consulting ideas that they can think of, particularly with just sort of best practices in this area, we're a very small organization, so we love having friends who are experts in what they do and want to share that. And with that, we'll open it to any questions about what we shared.
What part of South Africa are you in?
So we're in Johannesburg, and most of our campers come from Soweto, which is a township in Johannesburg, and our camp is about an hour outside of Johannesburg. Yes.
How many campers can you guys take at a time?
We typically have about 140 at each camp.
So Phil started the camp, and it was how many years ago? And what was his reason, or what compelled him to start it?
So he started the camp about 13 and a half years ago. It was in 2003 that he started the camp, and he was in, I forgot to mention this earlier, so I'm glad you asked. He and his wife were in the Peace Corps, and he helped establish Ethiopia's first residential camps in 1967 and 68. So he is just he knows camp, and he believes in the power of camp. And so that's how the South African camp came to be. He saw this HIV crisis going on and thought that the power of camp could really be impactful.
So how many kids have been through the camp so far?
Almost 8,000, actually. We've had almost 8,000 kids come through our camps, and in September we'll surpass 8,000 or almost. So that's exciting. Our September camp will put us at 8,000, and then in youth clubs we had over 13,000 visits last year, and that's 6 locations and that many campers that come to these Fighting Fleet youth clubs. Yes.
Do you guys do them year round, or are they just particular times of the year?
The camps, so they happen 3 times a year, and it's based on school holiday, and so we have a September camp, a December camp, and a March camp. That's my school year brain. So I guess we have a March, September, and December camp.
So I know what you guys do is a lot, I mean, very tangible. Do you guys have any way of measuring the effectiveness of your camps, like any sort of metrics, or like how do you guys kind of make it better? Or
We do, and I should have mentioned that with collaboration as well. So we had a cohort study going for 5 years, and we have data on that I probably should have included in this. And we are actually looking for a monitoring and evaluation partner. We're looking for someone to help collaborate on revamping our monitoring and evaluation. It's quite the undertaking, and because we're so small, I mean, staff-wise, it's Emily, myself, and we have someone in South Africa. There's another organization we work with in South Africa. We sort of, how do I frame that? We helped establish them there.
I would think of that as a sort of sister organization.
And then lovely interns who help us out. And so then we always look for someone to help us in the pieces that we just can't handle on our own. And we really want someone to help us with an impact evaluation. And so we've got some proposals out in South Africa, and we're launching this sort of a retrospective impact study that will look at campers who have been to camp in the last 10 years or ever, and sort of where they are now. There will be these questions we'll be asking to gear how their lives have been impacted by camp, and then there will be the control group of people who haven't been through camp. And so we're really excited to have that data to see what is the longitudinal impact. I mean, right now we know that we are increasing HIV knowledge and awareness, we're decreasing stigma, but the long-term impact is really, those level 2 skills are a real target, and so we're very much looking forward to this study kicking off and getting those numbers. Well, thank you all so much.